Please feel free again to share anything we've got. If you've got subjects you'd like to talk about, we would love to do that with you. I have been seeing a lot of stuff here lately, and this is something that really, I come from this. So I think I can speak to it. I come from a very fundamentalist Pentecostal background for many years. Not against the folks. Some of the most wonderful people I know, and the most sincere Christians I know, are fundamentalists, and they are Pentecostals. So I have no problem with that. But one thing I do see is people pulling up these so-called prophets. Well, there's a difference between a prophet, like is in the Bible, who is one who speaks for God and who speaks and everything points to God, than, let's say, Johnny Carson doing his Tarmac the Magnificent, act many years ago. And some of these guys I see people pulling up, that's what, well, God told me to tell everybody about this, that, and the other thing, and God said, and it's nothing to do with, anything about God. I'm seeing a bunch of stuff about the election right now. If you didn't figure it out, we had an election a few days ago, and they're still counting. And that'll work its way out. And to be honest with you, everything I've heard from these so-called prophets, I figured out my own dadgum self. It didn't take a whole lot to figure out. I didn't need God to give me some special message. But here's something I want to read to you. And this is from the book of Hebrews, chapter 1, and starting at verse 1. Long ago, in many times and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things. Through him also he created the world. Now here's the thing. We had the law and the prophets who spoke to us at first. But it says now God has chosen to speak to us through his very Son. I don't need another prophet. I don't need somebody being Carmack the Magnificent, telling me what God did and not using all this fumbly language, all the eagle this and the that, If God wanted to give a message, why don't he just use plain English? He could do that. But it says that God is now chosen to speak to us by what? His Son. You cannot supersede and end around the Son. It's Jesus, God's Son, the Son of God, God himself in the flesh. So you don't need to have these so-called prophets. I heard one person say a long time ago, that their husband was a prophet and he had a pretty good track record on it. A track record? Track record for a prophet? It ought to be 100% if they're the real deal. But it's not about foretelling the future and all this. That's not what a prophet does. A prophet points you towards God. And in these last days, we have his very Son